All right, well, so I guess maybe am I the chair of this subcommittee too? I guess I'm up there. I think, Karen, weren't you doing it? I don't know. I lost the thread. I know you were out from some, I was out, and it was kind of back and forth. So I don't know where we are with that. So
I'm completely happy having it shared. I know Jane kind of took it over last time, but
okay.
I'm not. Whatever. I'll do whatever.
All right, I'll let you run this meeting since I did the last one, apparently, as the minutes show. So,
all right, we ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't open any of the attachments that are Windmail. So I don't know what the agenda and the minutes are.
I can share mine, I think. Well, I think I can.
Barbara, you can also access both the agenda and the minutes by going to the Town of Mansfield website. Right on the home page, if you click on this meeting, you'll be able to get to tonight's agenda.
The problem is my computer is being used for Zoom, and it's the iPhone and the iPad that won't open the attachments. I can open them on the computer, but then I can't be on there for Zoom. I'm technologically really incompetent. I'm so sorry.
I can't share because that's been disabled. So I don't know, Margaret, if you can allow me to share, then I can share.
Try it now, Karen. I am Zoom.
Got it.
I'm a Zoom novice, so I think I just gave you permission.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though. Huh.
There's no way to send those as a PDF. They have to be a Windmail document.
They were.
It was a PDF for me.
The agenda was a PDF?
No, it's a Windmail.
I think it doesn't really get read. Like I can read it on my computer, but not my phone.
Yeah.
Mine came through as a PDF. So again, this is part of the mysteries of the tubes of the internet, that they get sent one way but arrive another.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what the deal is here. Oh, I think I had to give Google, Google Chrome permission. I don't even know. It says it has permission. It's coming up with like triangles with question marks in them. So
I can share the agenda.
okay.
So let me try that from my computer. Okay, can we see that?
All right, great. Yeah, I can see that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Call to order. We're ready, right?
We are.
Okay. Roll call. Everybody's here. Approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes, they look good to me.
Yeah. Everybody else? I'm guessing that Barbara didn't have a chance to read them. Okay. Minutes are approved. Let's start with old business. The outreach of the survey results. Where are we with that?
So at our last week's meeting, we talked about that we were in process of reporting out on the survey results as a part of a Human Rights Day report that we're going to put together. So Heather Evans has taken the lead on the drafting. Some of us have agreed to add parts, and so our plan is to have that draft completed and then reviewed at our next meeting for publication or dissemination on December 10th. So that's what's happening there.
Okay, so she's going to. I remember our discussion that we could not use a Google Doc, so she's gonna send it to Barbara. Yes, was that right? The draft?
She's gonna send it to me. I'm gonna write an
Oh,
executive summary and a conclusion, then I'm gonna send it to Barbara, and Barbara's gonna do the proofreading.
Free, yeah.
Sounds like a plan. And then the mural update, I think you guys were talking about that when I popped on.
Yeah, I mean, we were just reflecting on the event. So, I mean, the update is there, we have a mural, and it was unveiled at a great community event on Saturday. And I don't know if you did a count, Margaret, but my guess is probably 100 people
wow.
were there. And it was a beautiful ceremony, a beautiful, 4 hours of sunshine that we got right between the two storms that rolled through, and I think achieved our goals in lots of ways. So I think happy to have. I know Jane was there and Barbara was there and Margaret, you were there. If you want to say anything, but I think it was a roaring success.
Yep.
You want to say something, because I was talking to Carlita about this yesterday, and she said she's in the legacy phase of her career, and which I think is kind of funny. But she said the thing that impressed her the most was the diversity of youth and how exciting it was to see all those kids with all those different backgrounds doing all that stuff together and clearly being enthusiastic. And she was just really excited about the fact that the future was looking very good on Saturday morning. And I think she's in a really good position to make those observations.
That's awesome.
I think those are really astute observations too, because I thought we had such a great mix of ages
Yeah,
and
that's what she said.
races, and it was just, that part was wonderful. Yeah, I think we had between 115 and 130 people, actually. I had a couple of people counting heads, and I tried to do the same, and it was hard, to do, but with all of the kids that were there singing and performing, and the E.O. Smith students, I think we had even a more than 100.
Wow, that's great.
So I think just the last piece on the MLK mural is how do we get mileage out of this going forward with the schools and civics classes, and how do we continue to celebrate it and use it as kind of a focal point for outreach and communication and future celebrations. And we apparently also have the opportunity, there's a small amount left to potentially do another, what Matt Conway calls a pop-up mural at another location. So that's something that the committee will need to look at, but the idea of another, as he described, imagine butterfly wings painted on the wall of the town library, and people would sort of pose in front of it and have pictures taken with it, or just something else that's a little bit fanciful in a location that would be memorable for people to see it and engage with it. So that's kind of the next stage of how do we use this to position Mansfield in the greater hemisphere of human rights causes and all of that.
When you say there's money left over, how much exactly?
I think he's got $500 allocated for that little pop-up mural. There's not much left.
Okay.
I have another thought about that, because the photographs from the ceremony were so beautiful. Is it possible for us to make a, 6x8 piece that can be moved around, or make several of them and hang them in other places in the town so that people can see, and then with a direction go to the community center if you want to see the original? Because it seems like that would be very appropriate to spread around for people who don't go to the town hall and they don't go to the community center, but they go to other places, and just show them what it looks like.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I know there were plans to create a postcards and then to also create a way in which people can purchase prints of the
Oh,
mural.
yeah, okay, that's
Oh,
good.
that's cool. I
Order,
like that idea.
you know, exactly that. You know, and if we decided we wanted to have our own kind of mobile version of it, and, you know, we could look into, you know, producing it on a banner, like we have our Human Rights Commission banner, you know, a rollout that we could hang, or on a, you know, large board, and for us to be able to use it in that way. You know, we could look at that. Of course, again, we, you know, raising the funds for that. We've learned we can raise money from the public to support art in this community. And so if, you know, that's something we were interested in, and I don't know, Margaret, maybe we're going to have to talk to Ryan about this. You know, if we were selling the, you know, prints of this at a profit for us, you know, can that become part of a budget we can use then to, you know, do things like that?
Hmm.
Well, and frankly, I got the sense, Glenn, that was part of what CT Murals does to help raise money for their ongoing projects.
That's a good point.
The
Yeah.
prints and the postcards and those kinds of things. But back to Jane's idea, you know, creating a mobile version of this, especially because we do have the time-lapse video that people, you know, that you could watch how it was made, and then we could have some commentary. I mean, we could create a nice display, and it could live at the library, it could live at the middle school, it could go to the new elementary school, so that it could become engaging, you know, for years to come, with different groups. The senior center could host it for a while. So that, you know, I think would just require getting sort of an art person involved and figuring out how to manufacture something that would be portable but attractive and usable. So, you know, we just have to put a price tag on that.
Can we use the $500 for that?
It's a good question. I mean, you know, I think part of the idea of doing another pop-up mural was that, you know, it continues to support muralists, and that's really what CT Murals is trying to do. But we could raise it again. We still have our larger committee, right? That's still constituted to kind of finish out the project. So we could raise this as an idea with that group, and if everybody agrees that's a better use of the funds, then maybe we allocate it that way.
Okay. More conversation.
Yeah, so I guess the takeaway here is that everybody wants to be able to continue to use the mural in our outreach and engagement work, and so again, the group, the larger committee or the other committee, I think having them stay involved with what we're doing and having us stay involved with what they're doing is a good relationship for that extension work. So
I agree.
So is there a plan for one of us to bring that up with that committee? Who would do that?
yeah, I mean, I'm on that committee, so, you know, I'm happy to bring this to that conversation when we have our next meeting debrief of the original event and the next steps. So anything else that folks have on?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Jane, how about the speaker series? Where are we with that?
Okay, we're moving along. The grant proposal has been written. I just got it today and I haven't read it yet, but I'm very excited that Anthony got it done. And Glenn, I'm going to send it to you tonight or tomorrow so that you can write a supporting statement to go along with it when he submits it. Thank you very much. And I have procured a chair for the session on people living in Mansfield with disabilities, and it is the Reverend Hollis Cotton, who is a person with mobility issues, who also happens to have written some of the ADA Act related to public transportation and is a wonderful person to have in charge. And I spoke to him and he said he'd be very happy to present an overview of what issues people with disabilities face around this town since he lives here. And now I have to round up 3 other people or 4 other people to be in the group with him. But I think as Shamim from the middle school is going to help me with that. So I think we're going to be okay with that. I still need a couple more people for the faith group, and I still need to put together the family group. And I think Kelly Lyman is going to chair and moderate the family group. And so we just need to get a few people from several different kinds of families about living and being a family and growing up in Mansfield. So that's where we are. And the last, I mean, I have to find out how the technology works, but we have the technology. So I'm very excited about that. But Margaret, it's your turn. And I don't even know what to say to you because I don't know how to do this, but we now need to I'll pick the dates. And when we get the dates firmed, we need some kind of a logo sort of thing that will appear with as a teaser and then appear with the dates and then ultimately appear with the link so that we can put this out to the whole town and say, everybody's invited, please come, here it is, and here's how to get there. And so you know how to do that sort of thing. And I was going to call you today, but things got away from me. So mess up your recovery day. But that's what I need next. We need some sustained and visually consistent form of publicity that we can start rolling out. I anticipate, I think the first one is scheduled for the middle of January, and I have to get back to the first speaker and make sure. She may have some of her own PR stuff. I imagine she does because she does so much of this. And then I'll talk to her, confirm that date, and then I'll spin out the other 3 dates after that. So that's where we are. Felicia, do you have anything you are dying to learn about that you could learn from participating in this?
Like participating in the series or
No, well, one of the things you can do is I'll talk to you privately and help me round up a couple of families if you want to do that. And one of the things they really want to talk about, and Kelly was very clear about this, is that middle school kids really want to talk about sexual orientation, but we have to integrate that into a conversation with families about growing up in Mansfield. So, we can't just pick out 2 gay kids and say, hi, tell us about your life. That's just not going to work. So anyway, maybe you can be my contact to find family people around who you think would be good to speak about living and growing up in Mansfield.
I can talk to the GSA at EO Smith, I know, because my English teacher runs it. And we were doing a speaker series. We had a speaker 2 days ago about LGBT health. So I can talk to people in that, maybe see if anyone.
I'm thinking about families, diverse families, so every family doesn't look alike. And then included in that diversity is somebody who has some sexual variant person as a member of the family. So that here's my goal. My goal is to get everybody to listen to their neighbors and find out what their life is like and realize that nothing is simple. Everything is complicated. It's always, the word is intersectionality. So if we have a Muslim family with a gay kid and we have a Black family with a disability person and we have, that's what I want. I want the public to see that these are all complex. You can't put people in boxes and say, oh yeah, I know about your kind of people because I heard somebody talk. That is the one thing we do not want to do. So Felicia, I think what I'll do is I'll write you a little note and we'll figure out a time to talk and then we'll line up who we think we need to round up. Kelly Lyman told me she didn't tell me, I kind of shanghaied her. That's a bad word, politically incorrect, apologize. But she told me that, I said, Kelly, you'd be perfect to run the discussion about families because families all over the place. And she just kind of grinned and winced since she'd really like to retire. But I think I can get her to do that. And I think she'd be great at it. So that's where we are. If this money comes through, we've got everything covered except the people and the publicity. I'm excited, which is a big step up from being despairing, which I was 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Well, I think one of the things that we need to really decide is what are we calling this series?
Yeah.
And what's the one-liner that describes it? And, that it's hosted or sponsored by the Human Rights Commission. And I'll tell you that I am putting together for December 1, Lions bi-monthly newsletter.
Mhm.
So we'll have an opportunity to push it out to the community in that context, December 1st. So we need to kind of characterize what the series is and get people sort of intrigued by the concept of the series.
Okay.
And then we can push out the individual speakers under that umbrella. So I am picture a flyer that kind of promotes the 4 major topics and
Mhm.
maybe what the dates are, and then an individual flyer for each one
Okay.
that talks about who's speaking and who's hosting and some of the,
Great,
details of it.
great.
So
Well, if anybody has any brilliant ideas about it, I've been calling it community conversations. Some people have been calling it the neighbors conversation. But if you've got any ideas, just put them in the chat for me and I'll sit and think about it. And we'll see if we can come up with something that really grabs people's attention. And I will work on that in the next day or so. Thank you, Margaret. That's my report.
Maybe we could even leverage the mural here. Maybe there's some reference to the quilt or the fabric or
Fabric is good.
fabric of our community, or the threads meet the threads that make up the fabric of Mansfield. I don't know, something along those lines, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a good metaphor. I like that.
we got that going with the mural.
Okay. Yeah, if it is presented in a coherent way as a building kind of process, it will be much more powerful than if it's just this thing and then that thing and then the next thing. So I think that's a really good idea. I will work on it. Anybody's got any ideas, send them to me. Okay, Karen, what did you say there when you said your thing?
Muted, Karen.
What is that?
Thanks. Oh, I put in the chat it's actually kind of an interesting, if you trace it back, it's the story of Thanksgiving from the perspective of Native Americans, and it was actually put together by Oklahoma public schools, city public schools. It's about the Wampanoag, which are obviously in New England, but it has some really thoughtful lesson plans and some facts, and it was put together by their Native American Student Services. I guess the school district has Native American Student Services. So it seemed to me that if we're going to talk about the Indigenous Peoples Day website, I don't know if this is something we can add. It certainly, it popped up on one of the lists I follow, but I really, really liked it. So I am definitely going to be using some of these things with my younger students over the next few weeks.
Who is in charge of this website for us? And we're not having a celebration, we're just going to create a website, is that correct?
yeah, we have a web page that you can access through the Human Rights Commission page that Felicia and Derek created, that thoughtful list of resources, websites, movies, books. So it is there. I'm getting a little bit of help with some formatting of it this week from someone in the IT department, but it's there for us to be added, to add to. And Kelly Lyman actually included it in a curriculum staff newsletter that's going out tomorrow to all of her staff as a resource for teachers who are looking for Indigenous Peoples Day or Indigenous Peoples resources. So I'm happy to add this, Karen, as kind of a timely thing at the sort of at the top, and then we can move it down into the list over time.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. And again, it was written by Oklahoma City Schools, but it's certainly relevant to us here in New England and in Connecticut. So
The other thing relevant to our website, if I can just add, right now, there is an Indigenous Peoples Day, or excuse, I keep saying that, an Indigenous Peoples presentation that the state archaeologist is putting on for the Connecticut Historical Society. And I would really like us to promote that as much as we can. So for those of you who are on social media and whatnot, to share that out. It is a Zoom meeting, so it's very accessible to anyone and students, and then it'll be recorded for the future. So that's right now, I think that's on the website. And we'll put the Zoom information there as soon as they post it, so.
Sounds good. Okay, the next is our International Human Rights Day. Kind of alluded to it earlier.
Right, so we currently have the plan of putting the report together and making sure that's out there. But I think for this group, right, this is an opportunity to highlight, some, right, again, letters to the editor, or, a proclamation, from the town. Are there other elements that we'd like to put together? And then we need to decide on how to do that.
What is the date of that?
December 10.
Jane, is that too soon to do our listening session that we were talking about?
It is for me, because I've got something else going on in a totally different domain at exactly the same time. So I think we could do it maybe the following week, the week before Christmas, but I can't do anything that week.
Okay.
I'm looking at our new business, and it looks like E.O. Smith has an event that day. Is that related to human rights?
It is, and I was just thinking maybe I could be so bold as to kind of jump ahead and maybe connect the dots. So
Good.
they were hanging out at the mural, that the Human Rights Club is celebrating what they call Human Rights Day on the 10th from 4 to 5 o'clock. They're planning on the sidewalk in front of the high school to have a candlelight vigil and reading of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Ooh, I like that.
We will have some candles, but you are welcome to bring your own. Jar candles work best in the outside. Elements dress appropriately. So that's one thing that they're doing. And then their Amnesty International Club, the Human Rights Club, is doing an Amnesty International Right for Rights, which is a letter writing campaign that they're hosting the previous day, 2:30 to 4, in the E.O. Smith main lobby. So they've got two events kind of one day right after the other. And my understanding is that the Cultural Awareness Brigade on that same day, the 10th at 2:15, is doing some sort of an activity inside the lobby of the high school. So it sounds like there'll be something happening at the end of school and inside, and then the vigil outside that evening. So maybe we should just join forces with our young friends next door and support their event rather than trying to create our own.
I think that's great. And if anyone could videotape maybe some of those events, then we can post that, and voila, we've addressed it.
Felicia, do you want to say something?
Oh, I was just saying I could get footage because I'll be going to both of those.
That would be great.
That would be wonderful. So if these are all Smith events, is the public invited?
I think for the human rights, I would assume, I don't know for CAB, like it's super vague what's happening with that right now because they're still planning it.
Okay.
So.
I would think if
But
it's
there
in
is-
the,
I mean, when the public comes into a school, there are issues.
yeah, if it's inside the school, I would say no, but the one from
The
5
vigil, we
to
could
4 to
we could
5 should be.
publicize. Yeah,
So I
So we
think,
want to endorse that, right? And so through whatever forums we can, push that out and be in support of that. And then hopefully some of our members can attend, both the vigil and if the work in the schools is open. Last year, we did get the town to issue a proclamation, so maybe we can just, revisit that, adapt it, update it, and present that to the council for them to adopt in their meeting that's most proximate to Human Rights Day. Is that something we feel like we should do? Okay, so I can take that piece.
I think that the publicity part is the real important part because we're now trying to increase visibility around these issues. So we need to tell people what's going on. And town council meeting and having them do a proclamation would be that, advertising the vigil would be that. So I think that's good.
sounds good.
I know there's a council meeting next week, next Monday. So then if it's 2 weeks later would be the next one. I don't know how that lines up with it. If I don't have a calendar in front of me, but if that
So you
becomes then the,
So you said next Monday, the 22nd,
second, I
and
believe.
then
is a
2
council
weeks
meeting.
later is the 6th.
So that could align nicely for that council meeting on the 6th.
Yeah, so I think hopefully what we'll be able to do then is use that council meeting to present the report, which includes the survey results, the proclamation, and then we can highlight the event during that and
That's
invite
I like that.
council members to join, and then. Okay.
That would be a great, that would be very impactful, I think.
Okay, so we'll plan on doing that.
That's great.
It would be really wonderful with both whatever the CAB ends up coming up with for their event, Felicia, as well as the Human Rights Club, if they, I don't know, somehow extended some sort of a special, like if they published a flyer and some kind of special invitation to the town council to help, to participate. I think that would be really powerful coming from the high school kids directly to the town leaders. I don't know if that's possible or not, but
I'll talk to the heads of the club and see if that's possible.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
And let them know they can reach out to me if they have questions or, anything on that front.
The discussion about future outreach opportunities kind of fits into what we've been talking about. Being able to connect unless someone has anything to add to that, we can
Yeah,
go to new business, no?
no, we do have something
Okay.
about future outreach. Barbara and I have been talking about this. We've been wanting to have like an open meeting and just invite people who have things to say about human rights to come and talk to us, and just like have a public forum. And it seems like if we could do that on a Zoom meeting and get a reasonable amount of publicity for it, we could just do that. That would not be difficult. Town owns all the equipment. All we have to do is announce what we want to do and then issue the invitation. Because we want to get information from the community about the state of human rights in the town of Mansfield from their point of view. So we were thinking about trying to set something like that up between now and the end of the year. And I'd like to know, Barbara, you want to say anything else about that?
That's just what we were talking about. We were thinking if it were a Zoom meeting, it might be possible is it possible for people to come in anonymously to that?
There is a way to do that.
I mean-
I think with Zoom bombing and stuff, we don't really want that. We kind of want a waiting room and we want to recognize names. We're really setting ourselves up otherwise.
How do you
It's
do it?
Seriously, because
it would-
I've been teaching for a year with that and never been Zoom bombed. I mean, we just cut
Takes
somebody
away.
off that goes in if they do that?
I would not consider it a safe place for kids if we don't do that. I mean, in fact, I would guess most school districts don't allow open meetings like that. I mean, I really, I have a colleague who was a victim of it, and you can't unsee.
What would we have to do to make it safe? Is there a way to make it safe?
We'll have people sign up, and then and whatever questionnaire you want to offer, it only needs 1 or 2 questions. What's your name? What's your affiliation, perhaps? I don't know. I mean, you're always at risk. I mean, but at the same time, at least if somebody gives you an email address and a name, it's somewhat traceable. I just don't want to set anybody up. It's a pretty horrendous experience and I'm not like Zoom bombed is different than having somebody show up at a public meeting and be disrespectful or I mean, there's all in the news about that happening at school board meetings, and it's just not safe, emotionally safe.
Well, how could we have a public discussion without making people vulnerable to that? Is there a way to do that?
So I think we're talking about 2 different things. So one is the question of anonymous participation. And I think both for the reasons Karen's suggesting, for security purposes on Zoom, I don't think that's a good idea. And the second is I don't think it's allowed as a public meeting of the town, right? That we can't give people the security of anonymity because we're public and that's the opposite of private and anonymous. If we wanted to solicit people's input and they could write privately and do it that way, then that would be different. But if they're going to show up to a meeting that a public entity is hosting, then it's public. I think in principle. Now, to create a space in which there is some safety and support is about crafting a set of agreements and protocols, and then asking people to leave if they're not abiding by them, and that's pretty standard practice in kind of dialogue work. And we could do it, and there are no guarantees. Obviously, we've seen, as Karen says, school board meetings go sour, but at that point, you just close the thing down, and then you do the repair work necessary to help the people harmed. But I think if we set it up in a way that is clear about what our goals are and what our expectations, then people will show in that manner. So I think this is a good idea as a set of conversations, and I think perhaps we can use the report that we're going to produce about the survey as a prompt for that, and people can give their own experiences and reflections on that in a way that helps us get that data. I just don't think the work toward anonymizing, I think, is not gonna
Right, let's just totally get rid of that anonymous idea. What about doing a Zoom meeting so that people from the town can come in and bring any concerns to us?
Totally, yeah, I think that's totally doable.
But they would have to sign up. I mean, just they'd have to go through.
Could we have people sign up, have them come and speak? Everybody gets a time, and you get 5 minutes to talk to the group, and then you're over, and it's one person at a time?
It depends. Yes, you could do that, and that's very much like a public hearing. And the point is, actually, we offer that at every one of our meetings. We don't necessarily put a lot of effort into getting people to come do that, but as it stands right now, every one of our public meetings has a space for public comment, and that's exactly what that's for. It might be a little different though if you wanted something that was more like a dialogue and a conversation where, you know, we could ask questions, they could ask questions, we could respond in a way that was more of a back and forth, and, you know, had that element to it, because, you know, sometimes that gets to the deeper questions, or, you know, surfaces things that are more interesting. You know, that's a very different thing than public comment, where you do sign up for 5 minutes each, and it's just to kind of line up your turn, my turn, you know, and you go through it. We could still have people sign up, but then, you know, we could, depending on the numbers, put them into breakout rooms with one of us, and, you know, have the conversation go for, you know, 15 minutes, and different people are sharing and responding, and the conversation is done that way. It's a little bit more like a focus group, right?
I think I like
And
that.
then you can report out on what we find there. So I think
It
there's probably
really,
different ways of doing it.
it sounds a lot like what they do with deliberation at E.O. Smith, and yeah, no, it just seems like they tend to get a large audience. I wonder if, you know, again, collaborating with E.O. Smith makes sense, certainly to get young people's voices, but it was a pretty mixed group when I participated. I think it was in the spring at this point, but you know, if we have the conversation and discuss what we want the topic to be, they're kind of professional in how they facilitate, and not all of us are. So you know, there's already a structure with that, and
That's more the high school. I'm trying to figure out, how do we reach the other people in town that maybe
Well, but
don't have
having-
kids in school?
no, you didn't.
I'm not understanding.
Well, they use a structure that is really helpful for facilitating small groups, and they get a good turnout. So if we could
And it's
ask
not just
them,
high school people, it's
yeah,
anybody,
they could,
everybody's
or they
invited.
could
Most of the
facilitate-
people who attend aren't in high school. There's a
Yeah.
few, but like I facilitated, and it's like it's a majority. Maybe it's parents. I don't know
Mhm.
like exactly who they are, but it's not usually just high school students.
but
Can
it
I
would,
ask exactly how our meetings are publicized for the public comment? Because I'm a town of Mansfield resident, and I've never, ever seen anything saying we're having a human right. I mean, aside from the email that I get from the town with the Zoom link, does that go out to everybody in the town?
There is a list that people can sign up to be notified when certain meetings, certain committees, and of course, we have just south of a gazillion different committees that meet, you know, boards and commissions and committees. But there is, you can apparently go on and sign up to be notified when the Town University Relations Committee posts its agenda. You can sign up to receive that agenda and the minutes so that you can participate. Like if that's a committee that you're interested in, if human rights is a committee. So not everybody receives every notice about every meeting. It's on the, you know, if you want to go looking for it, it's on the front page of the website. But there is a device for notifying people who are interested in that. You know, engagement in the public process is, you know, it's important, and it could be something that somebody does, right? Is like, okay, this coming up this week are these 6 committee meetings and these, so, you know, so I'm just saying that, not that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you're right. I mean, but if we decided we wanted to really ratchet it up and let people know that at every Human Rights Commission, we're setting aside time to hear your story, we could do that.
I would like to know a way that we could reach people in town that are not in the school system necessarily, that maybe don't go to the senior center. Is there a way to let people know that there's, and then I think Jane and I were talking about one specific meeting where we would perhaps the whole Human Rights Commission would be there, but it's a time for public comment. And is there a way to publicize this to the entire town, not just people that are specifically asking to be included? I mean, a lot of people I don't think know that there is a Human Rights Commission in town.
Of course not. Yeah. I think Glenn's suggestion is also an interesting one, where we do have this survey, right? We went out and did this as a survey, and we have this report coming up that we're going to report out to the town council soon. If we used that as a jumping off point to, queue up and engage, have like a public presentation of what we learned, or have the first part of the meeting be, tell us about, what you want us to know, and then here's what some surveys work that we did with other families, and then promote that as an event unto itself, and as a and what it is we're trying to do
at the town council meeting.
No, as our own meeting, as our own forum, and it wouldn't even be an official. It would be more of an event than it would be an HRC meeting per se.
And how do we publicize that to the town? Is there any kind of mechanism to reach people in town?
This is
taxpayers?
what I fret about this every day of my life, right? Like, you've got social media, you've got the traditional media, print, radio. It's the fabric of all of those things that you have to do all of them in order to overlap and reach people. And even then, you're not going to reach everybody, because everybody's lifestyle and way of consuming information is different. So all we can do is just do this quilt of, what we have for mechanisms. The social media piece, I think, is probably huge for a certain element of our community. So it's just, that's what I do, is push out information in every possible way I can to try to get people tuned in. So could we mail a postcard to everybody in town? If you had $3,500 or $4,000, we could do that. I mean, some things have, sometimes we've done that as a community. So, we could certainly put it together and do our best, but it's hard to reach everybody. And the schools piece is a big part of it, reaching all those families through the school messenger system. But people who don't have kids and aren't on a board or commission, you're right, it's hard to reach them unless, we go to apartment complexes and drop flyers. And I mean, it can be very labor intensive to reach some of the nooks and crannies within our community. But we can certainly, do our best.
I think that the public comment portion of our meetings is really not reaching people. So I'm just wondering if there's another way that we could do it. What do you think, Jane?
Well, I think it would be easy to publicize the public comment portion of the meeting. And that would be the quickest way to get to people, because we already have it. The other ones, everyone has its own complications, and I'm just trying, this is not my thinking time of night. So I'm really having trouble trying to sort out what would be a better approach to get more. I mean, my ideal is to get people to talk to each other, and that clearly is not going to work as far as Karen's concerned, because it has the potential to blow up in your face, and I respect that.
That's not what Karen suggested. I think it's just the opposite. Karen was suggesting we could get people to talk to one another if we followed the expertise of E.O. Smith's democracy, or the Democratic Discourse Group. And so if that's what you want, I would say very much follow what Karen just suggested and engage those students in a conversation about how we could have that conversation. And their primary advisor is Amy Nocton. So I mean, I think this is not a hard a hard reach to make.
No, I think, go ahead, Karen.
I wasn't
Barbara.
gonna say anything.
I'm just a little confused. Are you talking about just reaching E.O. Smith students with
No,
this, or is
Barbara.
this
No,
something
Barbara.
that we can use for the whole town? And
No,
if we
Barbara.
can,
Yeah.
how is it that we get this information out to the town is my question.
I understand you're asking that, and I think Margaret's provided an overview of her strategies, and I think I don't know that you're going to get an answer that's definitive. The fact is, there is no way to reach everyone in town, full stop. And so
Okay.
it requires a broad range of strategies and us, frankly, also to do that. If we're thinking that there are people who aren't engaged, we have to go to them and engage them. So, my sense is, if this is a priority for this group, that, the format of the meeting is one thing that somebody needs to say, okay, I'm gonna work on that and reach out. And then the recruitment, which is, those are the two elements that make a successful event, right? One, you got to plan the event, and two, you've got to get the participants there. And so, I would say, members of this committee would need to volunteer to spearhead one or the other of either of those, if this is something we wanted to do.
And my suggestion of including that group is, why reinvent the wheel? They have a very, a smooth machine with that. And, if they were to participate, we would have the advantage of, even, as much as you say, the school community, they actually come. So it's an option. And then if we use other strategies to reach populations that maybe don't have school children, and pull them in, I think that's as good as it's going to get. Because if we don't focus, no, I don't want to say if we don't, but one benefit of working with them is they bring people and parents and grandparents who live in the community, who have different opinions. So it's a target audience, at least to start.
It seems to me somebody needs to talk to Amy and say, we're thinking about this, but and we know that you do this kind of process very well, but we really want to broaden the audience, and that would require probably that you tweak things a little bit for your facilitators. What do you think about that? And that seems like the place to start, because you're right about the way they run those things. And I think that's a very effective mechanism.
Jane, I think you should go, and Barbara, you should go the next time they do it, because I think you're going to be surprised at the draw.
I went to one when it was in person.
Okay.
And it was about that kid up in Pomfret who was being abused and harassed. And it was horrible what had happened to her. And they had a huge conversation about what to do about abuse in the schools and students bullying each other. And it was inside the building, and I don't know how many rooms were used. There were a lot of people there, and they weren't all kids. So I assume that they do the same kind of thing when they do it online.
It's a little different, but yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to go to this one. I felt really mad at myself.
Yeah, I think, we all have, not all of us, but many of us have really limited time. And so if we can capture something that's being done well and integrate it, it seems like that would be more efficient.
Well, can I volunteer to talk to Amy?
Yeah.
See what she thinks about the idea, and then see if we can bend it a little, if she'd be willing and able to bend it a little to our purposes, and see what we could do with it, because it's already there.
You have my vote.
Yeah, and she may be trying to put together their spring program, right? And if we could sort of fit into one of the topics of what they're planning on.
I don't think that's what we were talking about, though. I think we were talking about trying to get specific concerns to come to us. I mean, we are the Communications and Outreach Committee, so how do we reach out and how do we communicate is what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, the school already has a whole thing, the school messenger that we can use, and that's great. I know the senior center has an email base. Maybe we can get into that. There's
The library does.
the library does. We could get into that. How do we pull all these things together and coordinate a message going out? The town, there's a Mansfield, Connecticut Connection Facebook page that we might be able to use. What are ways that we can reach out to people that are already there that we can tie into somehow?
So then really what you're talking about is pushing out, we want to hear a very simple message. The Human Rights Commission wants to hear from you.
Yes.
If you have a specific concern or, and you don't want to just invite negative, but if you have a specific story or situation that you want us to be aware of, please do what, right? And we give them the call to action. You can email us at this number, you can call, you can come speak with us, like give them a variety, you can write us at, and and just start pushing that message out as a basic, like a drumbeat of, we want to hear from you. That's a different animal, but that's very doable. And just start pushing that out through this various media.
That's exactly what we were talking about. It's just something like that. Right, Jane? Isn't that?
Yeah, no, that would work. I'm just trying to think of ways to avoid explosions in people's faces.
But I think if you did that and you had, I mean, not everybody's going to show up for the first meeting. I think that they could reach out and then sign up to come to this, if that's what, or
Sure. Yeah.
in person, and that would make sense. But if you were looking to, really have community conversations, that was how I understood, then the E.O. Smith group is probably the way to go.
Well, excuse me, how about if we make a list of 3 or 4 ways that, that the public can contact us, put in a tagline of 2 or 3 sentences about, this is who we are, we want to hear from you, here are the ways to contact us, and then put that out 2 days before every meeting and say, you are invited to submit public comment in this way. And if we put that out before every meeting, that would get people's attention.
I think that's a great idea. That's I think what we're talking about more than trying to do focus groups and things. I think we're just trying to get the idea that there is a Human Rights Commission, and that if people would like to make a public comment, here's how to do it.
Yeah, and then put it out before the meeting, like 3 or 4 days before the meeting, every single time we have a full meeting, so that everybody knows and they get used to seeing it.
Great. So do we have a volunteer to put that together?
Is there anybody, if you want to kind of draft what you think that should say? I mean, one thought is that then if it's short and sweet, tied together with a graphic, maybe we translate it into our 4 primary languages. Maybe it shouldn't just be out in English, right? Like it becomes a graphic,
Mhm.
I mean, we'd have to pay a little, somebody would have to pay a little to have it translated, but maybe that's part of the outreach, like we're making an effort to reach people. That's just a thought, but if somebody would want to just draft sort of exactly what you'd like it to say, I can try to work up a graphic that then could work as a little, as a social media post, and we could put it on our front page of our, website, all of the usual things. I just want to make sure that that I'm capturing the language just right that you're looking for.
Barbara, you want to write the 2 sentences?
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll send it to you, Jane, and you tell me if you think it's good. Okay, how's that?
Okay, and then we'll send it to Glenn and Margaret.
Okay, we'll all look at it, but I don't want it to just be part of what we're doing. I'm hoping we can send it out through the school email, through the library email, through the senior center, on the Facebook page, to reach out and communicate is what I'd like to do with it. Is
I
that
have
possible?
access, I have access to all of those media.
Okay.
That's what my job is. So whether I can promise that every time we have a meeting, I can take an hour or an hour and a half to make that happen every time, that might be a little bit of a challenge, but I understand what it is you're trying to do.
Okay.
But those, we have a lot of media to push out information. So, but even getting that little message into this next newsletter of Ryan's, is important. But I see what you're trying to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Supporting the E.O. Smith event on the winter, actually new business, winter welcome display opportunity December 4th, and supporting the E.O. Smith events on December 10th. Those are our two new business.
So the winter welcome is happening from 4:30 to 7 on Saturday, December 4th. It's going to be a winter stroll through downtown, kicking off with a sing-along led by the E.O. Smith High School choir of some form. There's going to be music, there's going to be displays, there is a Christmas tree competition, ice sculptures. It's really a way to bring people out on a winter's evening to really feel like the holidays are starting and to, get back to normal. They're doing it instead of a drive-through as a stroll through. So carolers are invited to come and carol and all of those things. So I just wanted to make this committee aware of it because there is an opportunity to either do a full exhibit, if you think about like a pop-up tent kind of exhibit like we did for Celebrate Mansfield with some kind of messaging around the holiday, or last I knew they had one tree that had not yet been claimed in their Trim a Tree contest. And that's another opportunity. I had kind of floated the idea to the schools that it would be really wonderful as a device to kind of like our calendar exercise that Felicia and Karen did to kind of remind everyone that not everybody celebrates Christmas, that there are lots of holidays in the dark months that are celebrated around the world, and how might we represent them on a tree with decor or in an exhibit, as just as an opportunity to educate and talk about the different cultures that live within Mansfield. So I don't know exactly what the school is going to do a tree. I don't know what they're going to do with their decor. But I just wanted to put that on your collective radar. It's right around the corner, and, and it would be a big undertaking to do an exhibit, but it's one of those opportunities that, again, whether we do it this year or in another year, where we can begin to get people to understand that not everybody is Christmas, but everybody, celebrates something in winter, and, there's different cultures that are represented here. So I just wanted to have the opportunity to talk about that and see if there was any interest.
Well, I can't do any more in that time period because I've got some other stuff going on, but it really pisses me off that they're having a tree trimming contest. I have had more damn fights with those people. You know what? I mean, there are people who, quote unquote, don't celebrate Christmas. That's one way to put it, but there are people who celebrate other things. And it just makes me angry.
Amen. I've like, since I was a little kid, I used to do,
I can't tell you how bad Christmas is for Jews. It is a horrible time of the year. Absolutely horrible. Well, you should step on your face with a boot. That's what it is.
So West Hartford has
said
a big community menorah. I wonder if we could look at promote. I mean, honestly, part of me is like, towns should be sectarian anyway. These are religious holidays, but I know West Hartford has their big menorah, and they do a big celebration with that.
Yeah,
And
but
I
West
thought that
Hartford
was-
has more Jews than anybody else. So I mean, they probably have more Jews than Christians in that town. But
they
I mean,
also have a
the-
lot of
the
Muslims.
focal
and
point of
Hindu
the solstice is the return of the light. Every religion in the world in the Northern Hemisphere has that. So why can't we say the return of the light, joy and hope for everybody, and the light is coming up again, and aren't we all happy? And then put in all the different, I mean, even Holi, the Indian holiday, just happened, and it was a little earlier because all these different religions use different calendars.
Mhm.
But I mean, that should be the focus, the return of the light in the darkest time of winter to celebrate hope. And let's get rid of the sectarianism. And I don't know how to do that. I just yell about it every year. Thank you very much.
You know what? You are preaching to the choir, at least to you and me. I feel the
know.
same way. I always have. I'm somewhat of a Grinch. I just really,
Me too.
Well, I don't think that any of what you just said is an issue with the folks who are trying to organize and get community to come to the center of our town. And that's the opportunity, as I see it, is to get more people involved in this event and turn it into the kind of event that people would like to see representing all cultures. And they're not calling it a Christmas welcome, right? I mean, it's winter welcome, and they're just trying to light up this center of town and have it be a place to come commune. So I think, again, over time, we can help shape it, us meaning the community can help shape this in any direction. And if an infusion of energy came in and said, let's represent all of these other cultures, that they would be open to that. I don't think that they're saying, oh, this is we got to do this as a Christmas thing.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And I know that my basic fights have always been with the community center people and their Easter egg hunts. I haven't had much of a Christmas fight with anybody. But if they could only emphasize the light part of it rather than the Christmas part of it, it's probably not too late to do that. I think that would be really good.
I'm playing a concert that night, so I'm not going to be involved with that. But I mean, as a teacher, I have never done any kind of religious celebrations with any of my students in music in any way. And I wish that the town would not sponsor a Christmas or an Easter or any of those things. And maybe as the Human Rights Commission, we should bring that up. I mean, I don't want to have a war on Christmas. I think if people want to celebrate Christmas, that's wonderful. It's a beautiful holiday. I don't have a problem with any of them, but I don't think we should be sponsoring them as a town or as a political body.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's being pulled together by the Mansfield Downtown Partnership to try to bring people down to support our businesses. I mean, I think that that's the focus of it, and then they're just trying to expand participation in it. So I mean, this,
How they're doing it.
I mean, this is good, right? This is a hard conversation that we should have, and there's a gap. I think the title of the event is inclusive, but maybe the way it's being executed, but with a focus on a Christmas tree, even if you're not calling it a Christmas tree, if it's decorating a pine tree, I don't think anybody's going to mistake that for anything other than a Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. So it may be worth then, and I would be supportive of a message, Jane, if sounds like you might be the one to help compose it, but one to say we are supportive of the goal of a winter welcome, but have concerns over the centering of a Christian tradition, and wonder if there's a way we can have a dialogue about what a more inclusive winter welcome might be like.
Okay, well, let me try to write something, Glenn, and I'll send it to you and see what, because God knows I've thought about it enough. I'll just send you a little thing, and then you can do whatever you want with it. And
yeah,
I always come back to, my favorite holiday in the world is St. Lucy's Day, which happens to come on December 22nd. That's the solstice, because that's when the light starts coming back. And I'd love us to celebrate St. Lucy's Day. It's a little less historical, but it's effective.
You want to be careful you don't get into pagan holidays.
Oh, God help me if I was pagan. I would be so awful as a pagan.
Right.
Anyway,
And so, we want to be ecumenical, right? It's not one holiday we're picking over others. It's like a time of the year that, and
right.
so,
And it is the time of the year of return of light and hope. And that's
and
really,
we want to, focus on community and, the joy of being together. And I think we can be of help because we have perspectives that are about advancing diversity and equity in the town, in making sure any sort of events, and they clearly want that, because again, the title is Winter Welcome. It's not Christmas Welcome. It's not, but I think we can help guide toward more inclusive practice.
yeah, let me just try to write something up and I'll send it to you.
Can I just make a comment? I had a student who's Muslim that was very upset because there was a winter concert that was full of Christmas music and Hanukkah music. So they're trying to be inclusive, but they're also leaving out a lot of people and also making some people very upset. So I think if we could just steer clear of endorsing any religion, then we're better off.
Yeah, we have a lot of Muslims around here and we really have
do.
very well experienced integrating Islam into our celebrations.
I don't think we
wonder
should. I don't
if-
think we should have any of these religious celebrations. That's the goal of churches, synagogues, temples. It's not ours. That's just my view.
I wonder if Shamim Patwa would be a good person to bring into this conversation.
Yes, she would.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, she's never said anything outwardly, but as a member of the community who, whose kids grew up here.
People
as a
don't feel
Muslim.
safe. People don't feel safe saying anything against it.
Yeah, that's true. That could be.
They have to. The reason I heard it was they felt safe with me. I mean, but it's out there, and I don't know if we even want to get into this discussion, but I just don't think we should be endorsing any religion over any other religion ever.
Agreed.
Well, this is exactly the kind of conversation, right, that you wanted to invite people to these meetings to have, right? Is this. So I think that this is a great commission, a great committee within this commission to take on this issue to help our community do a better job with really just trying to bring people out in this, celebrating, in the dark time of year, celebrating, light and community. And how do we do that inclusively? So I think this is a great project to take on in the long haul, to make sure that everybody is heard and to understand the implications of it. I don't think there's any ill will intended with any of this, but if people feel like this isn't my community, if this kind of thing is celebrated, then maybe, that's important to hear and important for Mansfield to wrestle with.
Yeah, I think a letter to the downtown partnership might be a really good thing, but there's not enough time to really make this better at this point. But there's
Not
think
for this
we're
year,
not-
it's 10 days from now. We're talking, next year and beyond.
next year. Yeah, I think you're right. But just getting it into the conversation, I think is very important.
I think we
Yeah,
raise
as
the
part of
the
their
concern and we
debriefing.
invite the engagement, right? And then, that would be our role. And
Yeah,
obviously
I think
people don't
that's
have to
fine.
respond to that, but I think that's where we're at right now.
Well, it doesn't look like there's anyone here for public comment. Surprise, surprise. Uh, is there anything we are thinking that we need to add on? I mean, we just, kind of hit the jackpot on our little, if you wanted to get people to come, I think there's your topic.
I don't want to make a topic. I just want to
No, I know.
put it
I
out
know.
there that we're here and that people have concerns, they can come.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Wars
I
were
just
started
have
over
a-
these things.
Felicia, have you been taking notes? Are you prepared to do minutes for? Okay. So if you would just
Whoops.
do me a favor and send them to me and to Monica when you draft them,
Okay.
that would be,
It'll probably be in a few days because I have things I didn't get down, but
yeah, no, that's fine, but I just.
Thank you,
if don't
Felicia.
mind. That's
Yeah,
really
thank
such a big
you.
help.
All right. So for the good of the order, do we have anything else? Or I need to say that 6 o'clock meetings are really hard. I'm starving. I walked in right before it was due, before we started. I don't know if it's possible to make these meetings any later. I don't know if that, but it just,
I think we're approaching the end of this year, and so we will be, setting our full commission meeting calendar for the year, I think, at our next meeting. And so we can also do that for our next, at our next committee meeting. So bring your calendars next time and let's have at it for
Yeah.
the next time.
A little later would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too.
that would be great. All right, people, I think we are ready to rock and roll.
Right.
You
Thanks, everybody.
enjoy the next couple weeks. Yeah,
Thank you.
take care.